The alarm sounded across the bridge of the Songsan runner, a sharp beep that cut through the quiet hum of the engines. Doyun looked up from his datapad and walked to the main console. His boots made soft thuds on the metal floor. He had been captain of this salvage ship for 5 years, and unexpected signals were part of the job. "What do we have, Salmon?" he asked. The communications officer adjusted her headset and frowned at her screen. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "Distress call, Captain. It's coming from the inner orbit of the gas giant ahead. The signal is weak, but constant." Tejo, the pilot, leaned back in his chair and whistled. "That's not a good place to be. The radiation around that giant can fry most ship systems in a few hours. Can you identify the vessel?" Doyun asked Salmon. She worked for another moment, then nodded. "It's alien. The signature matches Valkyrie design. Research class, I think. The message says their stabilizers have failed, and they're caught in a decaying orbit." Doyun felt the familiar weight of decision settle on his shoulders. A decaying orbit meant the ship was slowly falling toward the gas giant. Time was not on anyone's side. He looked at his crew. Minji, the engineer, had come up from below deck when she heard the alarm. Hee-wan, their medical officer, stood near the back wall with her arms crossed. "How long do they have?" Doyun asked. Tejo pulled up the orbital data and calculated quickly. "Maybe 3 hours before they hit the upper atmosphere. After that, the pressure and heat will crush them." Minji stepped forward. "Valkyrie ships aren't built for this kind of stress. Their hulls are designed for deep space research, not atmospheric entry. Even partial. They're probably terrified." "Distance?" Doyun asked. 40 minutes at full burn," Tejo said. "But we'd have to go through the radiation belt. Our shields can handle it, but it won't be comfortable." Doyun made his decision. "Set course. Full speed." Tejo grinned and turned back to his controls. "Now we're talking." Salmon opened a channel. "Valkyrie vessel. This is the human salvage ship, Seongsan Runner. We have received your distress call and are on approach. Estimate arrival in 40 minutes. Please prepare for rescue operations." The response came after a long pause. The voice was thin and filled with static. "Human vessel. This is Valkyrie research ship. Quiet discovery. Captain Ilmeth speaking. We appreciate your response, but you must not approach. The radiation levels are lethal. The orbital decay cannot be stopped with our current damage. This is a certain death scenario." Doyun took the communication himself. "Captain Ilmeth, this is Captain Doyun. We've handled radiation belts before. Our ship is equipped for salvage in dangerous environments. We're coming to get you." Another pause. "Captain Doyun, you do not understand. Our calculations show that any rescue attempt has a failure probability of 73%. Your species cannot value your lives so little." End quote. Tejo laughed quietly. 73% chance of failure? That means 27% chance of success. I've flown through worse odds. Doyun kept his voice calm and steady. "Captain Ilmeth, we'll be there soon. Start moving your crew to the docking area. We don't have time to debate." He closed the channel. Hee-wan shook her head with a small smile. "They really don't know humans very well. Do they?" Closed 4. "Would you want to know a species that considers 27% good odds?" Minji asked. But she was smiling too. The Seongsan runner pushed through space at full speed. The gas giant grew larger on the view screen, a massive ball of swirling orange and red clouds. Beautiful and deadly. The radiation belt around it was invisible, but the ship's sensors showed it clearly. A thick band of charged particles that could destroy electronics and harm living tissue. "Entering the belt in 10 seconds, Tejo announced. "Everyone hold on to something." The ship shuddered as it hit the first wave of radiation. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. The shield generators hummed louder. working hard to keep the dangerous particles away from the hull. Doyun watched the readings carefully. The shields were holding at 85%. Good enough. Radiation levels are high but manageable, Minji reported from her station. Shield generators are running hot, but they'll hold. Taeho's hands moved smoothly over the controls, making tiny adjustments to their course. He navigated through the belt like he was threading a needle, finding the paths where the radiation was weakest. His eyes never left the screen, and his expression was focused but calm. On the view screen, the Valkyrie ship came into view. It was elegant, with smooth lines and large sensor arrays. But it was clearly in trouble. The ship tumbled slowly, its orbit bringing it closer to the gas giant with each pass. Doyun could see scorch marks on the hull, where the radiation had burned through the outer plating. There they are, Salmon said. They're trying to stabilize. But it's not working. Hail them, Doyun ordered. Captain Ilmeth's face appeared on the screen. She was Valkyrie, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Her expression showed fear and disbelief. Human vessel, you actually came. This is madness. You've exposed yourselves to lethal radiation for strangers. It's not lethal if you have the right shields, Doyun said simply. Prepare for docking. We'll attach to your port airlock. The tumble will make docking nearly impossible, Ilmeth protested. The stress could tear both ships apart. Taeho cracked his knuckles. Captain, permission to show off a little? Doyun nodded. Just don't scratch my ship. What happened next would be talked about by the Valkyrie crew for the rest of their lives. Taeho matched the tumbling rotation of the Valkyrie ship perfectly. The Seongsan runner spun and dove, moving in sync with the damaged vessel. It looked like a dance. Two ships, moving as one through the deadly space, near the gas giant. Inside the quiet Discovery, the Valkyrie crew watched in stunned silence. Their pilot, a young Valkyrie named Prena, whispered, "That's impossible. No one can fly like that." But Taeho could. He had been flying since he was 16, and he had navigated asteroid fields, debris clouds, and solar storms. A simple docking with a tumbling ship was just another challenge. He brought the Seongsan runner in smoothly, and the docking clamps locked into place with a solid thunk. Docking successful, Taeho announced. And the hull is fine. Told you. Doyun stood up. Minji, Hee-won, come with me. Let's bring our guests aboard. As they walked to the airlock, Minji checked her data pad. Captain, I'm reading multiple hull breaches on their ship. Small ones, but they're spreading. The radiation damage is worse than we thought. Doyun nodded. Hard to say. Maybe an hour, maybe less. The airlock door opened, and the Valkyrie crew came through. There were 12 of them, all looking shaken and afraid. Captain Ilmeth was the last to cross. She looked at Doyun with her large eyes full of confusion. "Why did you risk your lives for us?" she asked. Doyun smiled. "Where we come from, everything has a high chance of killing you. You learn to work with it. If you learn to work with it." Before Ilmeth could respond, the ship shook. Alarms blared. Minji looked at her pad, and her expression became serious. "Captain, the Valkyrie ship is breaking apart. Multiple hull breaches. It's happening faster than I calculated." Doyun ran to the bridge, the others following. On the view screen, they could see cracks spreading across the quiet Discovery's hull. The damage was catastrophic and spreading quickly. "Separate us from their ship now," Doyun ordered. Taeho's hands flew over the controls. The docking clamps released, and the Seongsan runner pulled away. Just in time. The quiet Discovery's hull split in 3 places, and atmosphere vented into space in white clouds of frozen air. Captain Ilmeth stared at her dying ship, then at Doyun. "If we had delayed even 1 more minute." "But we didn't," Doyun said. He turned to Minji. "Damage report." On our ship, Minji was already checking. Her face went pale. "Captain, we have a problem. The docking stressed our hull more than expected. We have 3 breaches forming. They're small now, but they'll get worse. And we're still in the radiation belt. The situation had just become much more complicated. Doyoon stared at the damage report on the main screen. 3 hull breaches. They were small. Just hairline fractures in the outer plating. But they would grow. In space, small problems became big problems very quickly. Add the radiation from the gas giant, and they had maybe an hour before things became critical. "Show me the breach locations," he said. Minji brought up a diagram of the ship. Red dots marked the damaged areas. 1 near the cargo bay, 1 on the starboard side near the engine compartment, and 1 on the port observation deck. The radiation is making the metal brittle. The cracks will spread. Captain Ilmeth moved closer, her blue face even paler than before. "This is our fault. We've doomed you all." "Nobody's doomed yet," Doyoon said firmly. He turned to his crew. "How long do we have?" Minji checked her calculations. 47 minutes before the breaches become critical. After that, we'll start losing atmosphere fast. "Number? Can we repair them from inside?" Hee-won asked. Minji shook her head. "Not these kinds of fractures. They need to be patched from the outside. Someone has to go, Eva." The Velkari crew members gasped. One of them, a young female named Prenna, spoke up. "Eva? In this radiation? That's suicide. Your suits can't possibly protect you." Jinho, the security officer, had been standing quietly near the door. He was a big man with calm eyes. "Our suits are rated for high radiation environments. We've done EVA work in worse conditions. Worse than this." Ilmeth's voice was shrill with disbelief. "This radiation level would kill most species in minutes, even with protection." "Good thing we're not most species," Minji said. She was already pulling up the suit specifications on her pad. "Captain, I can patch those breaches if I can get to them. I'll need help carrying the repair materials." "I'll go with her," Jinho said immediately. Doyoon nodded. "Taeho, can you get us to a more stable position? I don't want them working on a moving target." "I can lock us into a matching orbit with the gas giant," Taeho said. "It'll keep us in the radiation belt longer, but we'll be stable." "Do it." Doyoon turned to Minji and Jinho. "You have 45 minutes. Patch what you can. If it looks too dangerous, you come back inside. Understood?" "Understood, Captain," they both said. As Minji and Jinho left to suit up, Hee-won went to the medical bay. She returned with a small case filled with injections. The Velkari watched with growing concern as she prepared the doses. "What are those?" Prenna asked. "Stimulants," Hee-won explained. "They keep humans alert and focused in dangerous situations. They'll also help Minji and Jinho's bodies fight the radiation damage." Ilmeth looked horrified. "You're going to chemically enhance them? That's against natural function. It's dangerous." Hee-won gave her a flat look. "You know what's more dangerous? Hull breaches. These injections are standard procedure for us. But the side effects are manageable," Hee-won interrupted. "We've used these hundreds of times. Trust me. I know what I'm doing." In the airlock preparation room, Minji and Jinho put on their EVA suits. The suits were thick and reinforced, with extra radiation shielding built into the fabric. They looked bulky and uncomfortable, but they would keep the deadly particles out. Mostly. Hee-won came in and administered the injections. Minji felt the stimulants hit her system almost immediately. Her heart rate increased slightly, and her mind became sharper, more focused. The fatigue she had been feeling vanished. "How long will these last?" she asked. 2 hours, Hee-won said. "More than enough time. But when they wear off, you'll need to rest. No arguments." "No arguments," Minji agreed. Jinho picked up the repair kit, a heavy case filled with sealant, patches, and tools. He lifted it easily despite its weight. "Ready when you are." They entered the airlock together. As the inner door closed, Minji could see the Valkyrie crew watching through the window. They looked frightened. Some of them had their eyes covered, as if they couldn't bear to watch. The outer door opened, and space greeted them. Minji stepped out onto the hull, her magnetic boots keeping her attached to the metal surface. The view was incredible. The gas giant filled half the sky, its swirling clouds beautiful and terrifying. She could see lightning flashing in the depths of the atmosphere, bolts larger than entire continents. "Wow," Jinho said quietly over the comm. "Never gets old, does it?" "Focus," Minji reminded him. But she was smiling inside her helmet. "First breach is 30 meters ahead." They moved carefully across the hull. The radiation counter in Minji's suit beeped steadily, showing elevated levels but nothing her suit couldn't handle. Yet, every second out here increased their exposure. They had to work fast. The first breach was worse than it had looked on the sensors. The crack was longer than her arm, and she could see it spreading even as she watched. The metal around it had discolored from the radiation exposure. "This one's bad," she reported to the bridge. "Starting repairs now." She pulled out the sealant gun and began working. The sealant was a special polymer that hardened instantly in vacuum. She applied it along the crack, working quickly but carefully. Jinho held the patch material ready. On the bridge, the crew watched through the external cameras. Taeho kept the ship steady, his hands never leaving the controls. Soman monitored the radiation levels and called out updates. "Radiation exposure at 30% of safe limits," she reported. The Valkyrie couldn't believe what they were seeing. Prena moved closer to the screen, her dark eyes wide. "They're so calm. Don't they understand they could die at any moment?" "They understand," Doyun said. "They just don't let it stop them." Ilmith shook her head slowly. "I'm beginning to understand what Deathworld means. Your people must live with constant danger." "Pretty much," Taeho said cheerfully. "Earth has storms that can flatten cities, animals that hunt in packs, diseases that spread like wildfire, and temperatures that swing from freezing to boiling. You learn to adapt, or you die." "And you chose to go to space?" another Valkyrie asked. "To add more danger to your already dangerous lives?" Taeho laughed. "Well, when you put it that way, it does sound a bit crazy." Outside, Minji finished the first patch. Breach 1 sealed. Moving to Breach 2. The second breach was on the starboard side, which meant climbing over the curve of the hull. Minji and Jinho moved carefully, their magnetic boots clicking against the metal with each step. The radiation counter beeped faster now. They were taking more exposure. "Exposure at 45%, Saman called out. "Acknowledged," Minji said. She reached the second breach and started working immediately. This crack was smaller, but deeper. She could see internal structures through the gap. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Apply sealant, smooth it out, place the patch, secure the edges. She had done this kind of repair dozens of times in her career. The radiation was just one more variable to account for. Breach 2 sealed. Moving to Breach 3. "Exposure at 60%, Saman reported. Her voice was tighter now. The third breach was the worst. It was on the port observation deck, an area with thinner hull plating. The crack here was wide and jagged, and atmosphere was already leaking through in a thin stream of frozen vapor. "This one's bad," Minji said. "Really bad. The crack goes all the way through the hull. Can you fix it?" Doyun asked. Minji examined the damage carefully. The crack was spreading as she watched, the metal groaning under the stress. "I can seal it, but it won't hold for long. This whole section needs to be reinforced from the inside." "Do what you can," Doyun said. Minji went to work. The sealant hissed as it met the escaping atmosphere. She worked faster now, racing against time and radiation. Jinho helped, his large hands surprisingly gentle as he held the patch material in place. "Exposure at 75%, Saman called out. "You're reaching dangerous levels." "Almost done," Minji grunted. The patch was fighting her, the escaping air pushing against it. She pressed harder, using her whole body weight to hold it in place, while the sealant hardened. On the bridge, the Velkari watched in silence. What they were witnessing went against everything they understood about survival and risk. These humans were exposing themselves to lethal radiation, working in vacuum, risking their lives to repair damage that might not even hold, and they were joking about it. "Hey, Jinho," Minji said over the comm. "Remember that time on the asteroid station, when we had to patch those fuel line leaks? The one where we were standing in a cloud of explosive gas?" Jinho replied. "Some pleader. We bead? Yeah, that one. This is easier. Way easier. At least radiation doesn't explode." Well, the Velkari looked at each other in confusion. Prenna whispered to Ilmeth, "They're comparing dangers. They've done things worse than this." "Patch complete," Minji announced. "All 3 breaches sealed. Coming back in. Exposure at 80%, Saman said. "Get inside, now." Minji and Jinho made their way back to the airlock. As soon as they were inside, and the door sealed, Heewon was there waiting. She scanned them both with her medical equipment. "Radiation exposure is high but manageable," she said. "You'll both need treatment, but you'll be fine." Minji pulled off her helmet and grinned. "See? No problem." In the bridge, Doyun allowed himself a small smile. "Good work, both of you. Taeho, get us out of this radiation belt." "With pleasure, Captain." The Seongsan runner turned away from the gas giant and accelerated toward clear space. The radiation levels dropped quickly as they left the belt behind. But as the immediate danger passed, Minji's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, there's something you need to know about that 3rd patch. It's holding for now, but the damage is worse than I thought. That whole section is weakened. If we hit any turbulence, or have to make hard maneuvers, it might fail." Doyun nodded, though she couldn't see him. "Understood. How long will it hold under normal conditions?" "Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe less." "And the nearest repair station?" Soman checked her star charts. 2 weeks away, Captain." "If we push the engines and nothing goes wrong," Ilmeth stepped forward. "Captain Doyun, we owe you our lives. But now we've endangered yours. Our presence on your ship adds to your risk." Doyun turned to her with a calm expression. "Captain Ilmeth, we'll make it to the station. We've faced worse odds. That seems to be a pattern with your species," Ilmeth said quietly. Outside the view screen, an alarm suddenly blared. Saman's face went pale as she checked her sensors. "Captain, we have a new problem. There's a ship approaching. Fast. The signature matches known pirate raiders." Doyun's jaw tightened. "Of course." A damaged ship full of refugees was an easy target. "How long until they reach us?" he asked. 20 minutes, Saman said. The situation had just gotten worse again. Doyun stared at the sensor readout, showing the approaching ship. The signature was clear. Raiders. The kind of scavengers who preyed on damaged vessels and took whatever they could sell. Cargo. Equipment. Sometimes even crew members to ransom back to their families. "Can we outrun them?" he asked Taeho. The pilot checked the engine status and shook his head. "Not with our current damage. The repairs Minji made are holding. But if I push the engines too hard, the vibrations might tear those patches loose. We'd lose atmosphere." "Combat capabilities?" Doyun asked Jinyo. The security officer pulled up the weapon systems. "We have the standard defense grid. Pulse cannons, 2 missile tubes, and point defense lasers, but our shields are still recovering from the radiation exposure. They're at 60% capacity." Captain Ilmeth's hands were shaking. "We must surrender. Fighting them would be illogical. They have the advantage." "Surrender?" Kyung-ho, the cargo specialist, had come up to the bridge. He was a large man with scarred hands from years of handling heavy equipment. "And then, what? Hope they're nice pirates? They would take our cargo and leave," Ilmeth said. "It's the standard procedure. Resistance only leads to death." Doyun looked at her carefully. "Is that how things work in Velkari space?" "It's how things work logically," Ilmeth replied. You evaluate the situation, calculate the odds, and choose the path with the best survival probability. Fighting a superior force is not logical. But giving up means they definitely win, Tejo said. Fighting means maybe they win. I prefer maybe. 2. Definitely. Prena, the young Velkari science officer, had been listening carefully. But the calculations show, calculations don't account for everything, Doyun said. Minji had returned to the bridge after He-Won cleared her from medical. The stimulants were still in her system, making her mind race with possibilities. We could try to hide. There's a debris field from the Velkari ship. We could drift in it and power down. They might pass us by. There's a debris field. We could drift and power down. Or they might scan the debris and find us anyway, Salmon added. And then we'd be sitting targets, with no shields or weapons ready. Jinho crossed his arms. We could fight. Our weapons are functional. It would be a risk, but we might be able to drive them off. A risk? Ilmeth's voice rose in pitch. It would be suicide. Their ship is larger, better armed, and fully operational. Your ship is damaged. The probability of success is minimal. Doyun was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he smiled slightly. What would a Deathworlder do? His crew understood immediately. Tejo grinned. Something crazy that makes logical sense, only if you're already used to nothing making sense. Exactly. Doyun turned to Minji. Can you rig the ship to look like it's having a catastrophic failure? Make it look like we're about to lose containment, or have an engine explosion? Minji's eyes lit up. I can vent atmosphere in controlled bursts, shut down non-essential systems, and send out emergency signals. I can make it look like we're dying. Long. And when they come to pick through the wreckage? Jinho asked. We won't be wreckage, Doyun said. We'll be very much alive. And waiting. The Velkari crew members looked at each other in confusion and horror. It's called a trap, Kyungho said. It's how you hunt things bigger than you. But you're not hunting, Ilmeth protested. You're trying to survive. On Earth, those are often the same thing, He-Won said. Doyun made his decision. Salmon, send out a distress signal. Make it sound panicked. Say we're losing containment, and our systems are failing. Minji, start the show. Make it look good. Tejo, I want you ready to move the second I give the word. Jinho, Kyungho, prepare for boarding defense. His crew moved immediately, each person knowing their role. The Velkari watched in amazement as the humans transformed their fear into action. Minji's hands flew over the engineering console, shutting down secondary power, venting atmosphere from the cargo bay, initiating emergency lighting sequence. The lights on the bridge dimmed to emergency red. Alarms began blaring. On the exterior of the ship, jets of white vapor shot out into space as atmosphere was deliberately vented. To anyone watching, the Seongsan runner looked like a ship in its death throes. Salmon sent out the distress call, her voice high and panicked. This is the Seongsan runner. Critical systems failure. Repeat. Critical failure. Life support compromised. Requesting immediate assistance. She closed the channel and gave Doyun a thumbs up. That should get their attention. Now we wait, Doyun said. Everyone stay quiet. Minimal power signatures. The ship went dark and silent. The main engines powered down to barely a whisper. Life support switched to backup systems. To the pirates' sensors, the Seongsan runner would look like a ship that had just suffered a catastrophic failure and was now drifting, helpless. The raider ship approached carefully. Through the view screen, set to minimal power, they could see it. It was twice the size of the Seongsan runner, with weapon ports visible along its hull. The design was mismatched, clearly cobbled together from different ships. A scavenger vessel. They're scanning us, Salmon whispered, watching her console. Good, Doyun said. Let them think we're harmless, Ilmeth whispered urgently. They will board you. When they discover you're alive, they'll kill you all. Maybe, Doyun said calmly. Or maybe they'll wish they'd kept flying. The raider ship moved closer. Through the communication system, a harsh voice spoke in broken trade language. Human ship. We see you dying. We come to help. Open your airlocks. Help, Teho muttered. Sure you will. Doyun kept his voice weak when he responded. Please. Help us. We're losing air. Can't hold on much longer. We come now. Stay calm. The raider ship latched onto the Seongsan runner's main airlock. They could hear the clamps engage through the hull. Then, footsteps. Heavy boots. On metal. The pirates were boarding. Jinho and Kyungho were waiting in the corridor near the airlock, hidden in the darkness. They had turned off their lights and were wearing dark clothing. In their hands, they held weapons. Not guns, those could puncture the hull. Instead, they had shock batons and magnetic grapples. The pirates came through the airlock confidently. There were 6 of them, different species, all armed. They wore mismatched armor and carried energy weapons. They expected to find a dying crew. Easy pickings. Instead, they found darkness and silence. Where are they? One pirate growled. Checking life signs. Another said, looking at a scanner. I'm reading. Wait. There are too many life signs. The ship isn't dying at all. That's when Jinho struck. He came out of the darkness like a ghost, his shock baton crackling with electricity. He hit the first pirate in the back, and the alien went down with a cry. Kyungho grabbed another with his magnetic grapple, pulling the pirate off balance and slamming him into the wall. The corridor erupted in chaos. The pirates tried to fire their weapons, but in the confined space and poor lighting, they couldn't get a clear shot. The humans moved fast, using the environment to their advantage. They knew every corner of their ship, every shadow, every hiding place. One pirate managed to fire, but Jinho had already moved. The energy bolt hit the wall, scorching the metal. Jinho came in low, sweeping the pirate's legs. As the alien fell, Kyungho was there with the shock baton. On the bridge, the remaining crew watched through the internal cameras. The Valkyrie were silent, their eyes wide. They had never seen combat like this. The humans weren't just fighting. They were hunting, using darkness, surprise, and their knowledge of the ship to turn a bad situation into an advantage. This is how you fight on a death world, Prena whispered. You turn the environment into a weapon. Everything is a weapon if you're creative enough, Minji said. In the corridor, the fight was ending. 4 pirates were unconscious. The other 2 were backing toward the airlock, fear evident on their faces. They had expected easy prey. Instead, they had found predators. Leave, Jinho said, his voice cold. Now, and tell your captain that this ship fights back. The 2 pirates scrambled back through the airlock, the door sealed behind them. They're running, Salmon reported from the bridge. The raider ship is disengaging. Not so fast, Minji said. She had been waiting for this moment. Her fingers moved over the console, and a signal pulsed from the Seongsan runner to the raider ship. On the raider vessel, alarms suddenly blared. Their power systems began to fluctuate wildly. Lights flickered. The engines stuttered. What did you do? Ilmeth asked, amazed. When they docked with us, I uploaded a virus to their systems, Minji explained. Nothing permanent, just enough to make them think twice about attacking random ships. Their power coupling is overloading. They'll need to spend a few hours fixing it. The raider ship limped away, its engines misfiring. They weren't destroyed, but they were definitely not coming back. Doyun stood up. Secure the prisoners. Strip them of their weapons and equipment. We'll hand them over to authorities at the next station. Kyungho and Jinho dragged the unconscious pirates to the cargo hold and locked them in. The crew began powering up the ship's systems again. The emergency was over. Captain Ilmeth approached Doyun slowly. Her large eyes were filled with something between fear and respect. You didn't just fight them. You turned your weakness into a trap. You made them think you were helpless, then struck when they were vulnerable. It's called strategy, Doyun said. We learned it from our ancestors. When you can't win by being stronger, you win by being smarter. But the risk, Ilmeth said. If your plan had failed, then we would have tried something else. Doyun interrupted. On Earth, our ancestors faced predators bigger and stronger than them every day. They learned to use tools, to work together, to turn their environment into an advantage. That's how humans survived. That's how we became the dominant species on our planet. Prena was taking notes frantically on her datapad. This is incredible. Your entire approach to danger is different. Where we see certain death, you see possibilities. 2000. We were. 2000. 2000. 2000. Not possibilities. Tejo corrected. Probabilities. Everything is about probabilities. Sometimes you have a 90% chance of success. Sometimes you have 10%. But even 10% is better than zero. And you're willing to risk the 90% chance of failure? Another Velkari asked. Depends on what we're fighting for, he once said. If it's worth it, yes. The ship was functional again, moving through space at a steady pace. The nearest station was still 2 weeks away, but they would make it. Doyun was confident of that. Salmon looked up from her console. Captain, I'm picking up another signal. It's faint, but it's there. Another distress call? Doyun asked. Yes, a small transport. They're reporting engine failure and requesting assistance. The Velkari crew members tensed. Ilmeth spoke carefully. Captain Doyun, your ship is damaged. Your resources are limited. Your crew is tired. The logical choice would be to continue to the station. Doyun looked at his crew. Tejo shrugged. Minji nodded. Hee-won smiled. Jinho and Kyungho gave him a thumbs up. Plot a course to the transport. Doyun said to Somin. Let's go see if they need help. Ilmeth shook her head slowly. I'm beginning to understand. You're not reckless. You're something else entirely. You're Deathworlders. You see danger, and choose to face it anyway. Not anyway, Doyun corrected gently. Because of it. Danger is where people need help the most. That's when you show up. As the Seongsan runner changed course toward the new distress signal, Prena continued writing in her notes. She was documenting everything, the fighting style, the trap strategy, the willingness to help despite personal risk. When she returned to Valkyrie space, she would write her paper on Deathworld species and their unique approach to survival. But more than that, she was beginning to understand that humanity didn't just survive on a dangerous world. They thrived because of it. Every challenge made them stronger. Every risk taught them something new. Every danger was an opportunity to prove what they were capable of. Captain, she said quietly to Ilmeth, I think we need to revise our understanding of what makes a species successful. John-wide. Ilmeth nodded, watching the humans work. The small transport ship was adrift when they found it. It was a civilian vessel, old and worn, with scoring marks along the hull that showed years of use. Its distress beacon pulsed weakly in the darkness of space. Life signs? Doyun asked. Salmon checked her sensors. 4, all weak but stable. Looks like their life support is on emergency power. Can we tow them? Doyun asked Minji. The engineer studied the readings carefully. Their mass is manageable. But with our damaged hull, towing puts extra stress on the structure. That patch on the port side might not hold. How long to the station if we tow them? 2.5 weeks instead of 2, Minji calculated. The extra weight will slow us down. Ilmeth spoke up. Captain Doyun, I must advise against this. Your ship is already compromised. Taking on more risk for strangers is not wise. Doyun gave her a patient look. Captain Ilmeth, we just saved your entire crew. Are you really going to tell me not to help others? Ilmeth hesitated, then bowed her head slightly. You're right. I apologize. My people have much to learn from yours. We all learn from each other. Doyun said. He turned to Taeho. Bring us alongside. Let's see who needs our help. They docked with the transport carefully. The airlock opened, and a family came through, 2 adults and 2 children of a species Doyun didn't recognize. They had gray skin and 3 eyes, and they looked exhausted and frightened. Hee-won immediately went into medical mode, scanning them with her equipment. They're dehydrated and hungry, but otherwise healthy. How long were you drifting? 3 days. The father said in heavily accented trade language. Our engines failed. We thought we would die out here. Our engines. You're safe now, Hee-won assured them. She led them to the crew quarters, where the Valkyrie were staying. The space was getting crowded, but they would manage. Over the next few days, the Seongsan runner became a cramped refuge for multiple species. The humans shared their quarters, their food, and their water. Rationing was implemented immediately. Each person got exactly enough to survive, nothing more. The Valkyrie struggled with the rationing. They were used to abundance, to having their needs met without question. Now, they had to measure every drink of water, every bite of food. It was psychologically difficult for them. The human crew, however, accepted it without complaint. They had been through worse. When Hee-won announced the daily rations, they simply nodded and adapted. Don't you find this difficult? Prena asked Minji one day. They were sharing a small meal in the cargo bay, which had been converted into an additional living space. Minji shrugged. It's just temporary. We'll reach the station. Eventually. But you're hungry. I can see it. Yet you don't complain. Complaining doesn't make more food appear, Minji said practically. She took a small bite of her protein bar, chewing slowly to make it last. On Earth, people have gone through famines, droughts, harsh winters. You learn to make do with what you have. Prena made notes on her data pad. Adaptability. That's the key, isn't it? Humans adapt to circumstances that other species would find impossible. I wouldn't say impossible, Minji corrected. Just difficult. And difficult is different from impossible. The days passed slowly. The ship was crowded with 19 people sharing space designed for 6. The bathrooms had schedules. The sleeping areas were rotated. Privacy was a luxury no one had. Kyung-ho set up a workout schedule to keep people active. The Valkyrie were amazed to see the humans exercising when they were already on reduced rations. Why expend energy when you have so little? One Valkyrie asked. Because muscles atrophy without use, Kyung-ho explained, doing push-ups on the cargo bay floor. We'll need our strength when we reach the station. Better to stay fit. He made it look easy, but Hee-won knew he was just as hungry as everyone else. The humans were simply used to pushing through discomfort. On the 6th day, Prena approached Doyun on the bridge. Captain, may I ask you something? Of course. Your crew follows you without question. When you said we would help the transport, they agreed immediately. When you implemented rationing, they accepted it. Why do they trust you so completely? Doyun thought about the question. I don't think it's about trust in me specifically. It's about trust in the idea that we're all in this together. In dangerous situations, humans have learned that cooperation is the only way to survive. We developed tribes, communities, societies. We learned to work as a unit. But what if you make a wrong decision? What if your choices lead to disaster? Then we face that disaster together, Doyun said simply. And we try to fix it. That's how it works. Prena shook her head in wonder. Valkyrie leadership requires consensus. Every major decision is debated until everyone agrees. It can take days or weeks. And if there's an emergency that requires immediate action, then we follow protocol. There are procedures for everything. What if the emergency isn't in the protocol? Prena didn't have an answer to that. On the 9th day, the situation took a turn. Salmon detected an anomaly on the sensors. Captain, the patch on the port observation deck is showing stress fractures. The extra weight from towing is affecting it. Doyun went to engineering with Minji. They examined the data together. The patch was holding, but barely. The constant stress of towing was weakening the seal. Can we reinforce it? Doyun asked. Not from inside, Minji said. We'd need another EVA repair. How long will it hold? As is. Maybe 5 more days, maybe less. If it fails completely, we'll lose that entire section. We'd have to seal off the observation deck and everything connected to it. Doyun did the math. They were still a week from the station. The patch would fail before they arrived. Ilmith overheard the conversation. Captain, you must release the transport. The tow is destroying your ship. And leave them to drift? Doyun asked. You can call for help. Someone else will rescue them. Maybe, maybe not. Space is big. They could drift for weeks before someone finds them. But if you keep towing them, your ship will be damaged beyond repair. You're risking everything for strangers you owe nothing to. Doyun looked at her steadily. Captain Ilmith, you're thinking about this wrong. It's not about what we owe. It's about what we can do. We can help them. So we will. Even if it costs you your ship? Even then. Prena was writing frantically. This was it, the core of human psychology. They helped, not because it was logical or safe, but because they believed it was right. It was a moral imperative that overrode calculations of risk and reward. That night, Tejo organized a game night in the cargo bay. He taught the Valkyrie and the transport family how to play poker. They sat in a circle on the floor, using spare parts as betting chips. The key to poker, Tejo explained, is understanding probability and reading people. You calculate the odds of winning based on your cards. But you also watch how others react. Are they confident? Nervous? Bluffing? He dealt the cards. The Valkyrie struggled with the concept of bluffing. It seemed dishonest to them. But the transport children loved it, giggling as they tried to fool each other. This is a Deathworld game, Prena observed. You're teaching us to calculate risk and deceive opponents. It's not really deception, Tejo said. It's strategy. You're not lying about the rules. You're just not revealing everything you know. That's different. They played for hours. Slowly, even the Valkyrie began to enjoy it. They learned to read the subtle signs, a nervous twitch, a confident smile, a hesitation before betting. They learned that sometimes the best hand doesn't win. Sometimes courage and timing matter more. On the 11th day, disaster struck. The patch failed. Alarms blared across the ship. Minji ran to engineering, her face pale. We're losing atmosphere in the port section. The seal gave way. Word, seal the bulkheads. Doyun ordered. Immediately, Salmon's hands flew over the controls. Heavy doors slammed shut throughout the ship, isolating the damaged section. The atmosphere loss stopped, but they had lost access to 1/3 of the ship. How bad? Doyun asked. We've lost the observation deck, 2 storage rooms, and the secondary life support system, Minji reported. The main life support can handle everyone, but will be even more crowded now. Ilmith looked devastated. I'm sorry. This is our fault. If we had never... Stop, Doyun interrupted firmly. This isn't about fault. It's about dealing with what is. We have 4 days to the station. We have enough life support for everyone. We'll make it. But the mood on the ship had changed. The humans remained calm, but the refugees were scared. They had seen the ship damaged further, seen how close they all were to disaster. That evening, Prena found Hewan in the medical bay. How do you stay calm? She asked. Everything is falling apart. Hewan looked up from her medical supplies. Everything seems like it's falling apart. There's a difference. We still have air, power, food, and water. We're still moving toward the station. Yes, things are harder now, but we're not dead yet. Is that the human philosophy? Not dead yet? Hewan smiled. Pretty much. On Earth, our ancestors faced ice ages, plagues, predators, and natural disasters. They survived because they kept moving forward even when things looked hopeless. That's in our DNA now. We don't give up until we're actually finished. What if you are finished? What if the next thing that breaks kills you all? Then we'll be dead, Hewan said practically. But we're not dead now, so we keep trying. It was such a simple philosophy, yet so powerful. The Velkari had never thought about survival this way. They calculated odds and made logical decisions. But humans had something else: stubborn determination that refused to accept defeat until defeat was absolute. On the 13th day, supplies ran critically low. Hewan implemented emergency rationing. Each person got 1 meal per day, just enough to keep them functional. The human crew worked their shifts without complaint. They were thin and tired, but they kept going. Taeho flew the ship with the same precision as always. Minji maintained the engines despite her exhaustion. Jinho and Kyungho kept watch over the ship's security. The refugees were struggling more. They weren't used to this level of hardship. The Velkari especially found it difficult. Their culture had eliminated hunger and scarcity generations ago. Now they were experiencing it for the first time, and it frightened them. How much longer? One Velkari asked Doyun. 3 days, he replied. Can we make it? Yes. How can you be certain? Because giving up isn't an option. On the 14th day, Prenna finished her paper. She had documented everything: the rescue, the fighting, the rationing, the cooperation. She had interviewed every human crew member and observed their behavior in crisis after crisis. She showed her conclusions to Ilmith. I understand now, she said. Deathworlders don't just survive danger, they master it. Every challenge in their history taught them something new. They learned to plan, to adapt, to cooperate, to fight, to endure. They turned their dangerous world into a training ground. Ilmith nodded slowly. And that makes them formidable. Not because they're stronger or smarter, but because they refuse to accept defeat. More than that, Prenna said. They refuse to let others face defeat alone. That's why they help. That's why they risk everything. Because on a death world, you survive together or you die alone. On the 15th day, the station appeared on the sensors. A massive structure, floating in space, bright with lights and activity. Safe harbor at last. The crew cheered weakly. They had made it. Against the odds, through danger and hardship, they had survived. Doyun requested docking permission, and it was granted immediately. The Seongsan runner limped into port, battered and damaged but still functioning. As soon as they docked, station medical teams came aboard to check everyone. The refugees were taken to guest quarters where they could rest and recover. The Velkari thanked the human crew profusely, their large eyes wet with tears. You saved our lives, Ilmith said to Doyun. Twice. We can never repay you. You don't need to repay us, Doyun said. Just remember what you learned, and maybe help the next person who needs it. Ilmith bowed deeply. We will. I promise you, we will. As the Velkari left, Prenna lingered. She handed Doyun a data chip. My paper. I want you to have the first copy. I'm calling it Deathworld Species. Risk Assessment and Cooperative Survival. It's about your people and what makes you unique. Doyun took the chip. Thank you. I hope it helps others understand us better. I think it will change how the galaxy sees humanity, Prenna said quietly. Your courage isn't reckless, it's calculated. Your compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. You've shown me that danger doesn't define a species. How they face danger does. She left to rejoin her crew. Doyun stood on the station dock, watching the various species walk by. So many different people, all living together in peace. Salmon approached him. Captain, the station master wants to see you. Something about our next job. Do-yoon smiled. Already? We just got here. You know how it is. There's always someone who needs help. They walked through the station together. The Seongsan runner would need extensive repairs, but she would fly again. And when she did, they would be back out there, helping those who needed it. Because that's what Deathworlders did. The station master was a Quellan, a species known for their business sense and practical nature. He had 4 arms and skin that shifted colors based on his mood. Right now, it was a calm blue as he reviewed the Seongsan runner's repair estimate. This will take at least 2 weeks, he said, tapping the datapad with one hand. Your hull damage is extensive. The port section needs complete replacement. That's expensive work. Do-yoon had expected as much. We can pay. We have credits from previous jobs. Ah, about that. The station master's skin shifted to yellow uncertainty. I have a proposition. There's a situation that requires immediate attention. A colony ship is in distress 3 days from here. If you take the job, I'll cover half your repair costs. A colony ship? Do-yoon asked. What kind of distress? Their navigation system failed. They're drifting off course toward an asteroid field. They have 2,000 colonists in cryo-sleep. If they hit those asteroids... He didn't need to finish the sentence. Do-yoon thought for a moment. Our ship isn't fully repaired. We can't do a rescue operation in our current state. I know. That's why I'm offering to do emergency repairs first. Enough to make you functional. Full repairs can wait until after the job. It was risky. Take a damaged ship on a rescue mission to save time and money. But 2,000 lives hung in the balance. What do my crew think? Do-yoon asked Salmon, who had been listening quietly. She smiled. You already know what they'll say. Do-yoon turned back to the station master. We'll take the job, but I need those emergency repairs done in 3 days. The station master's skin turned green satisfaction. Agreed. I'll have my best teams working around the clock. Word of the new mission spread quickly. The Valkyrie crew, now recovered and rested, heard about it. Ilmeth came to find Do-yoon at the repair dock, where work on the Seongsan runner had already begun. Captain, I heard about the colony ship, she said. Your ship is barely functional. This is too dangerous. Probably, Do-yoon agreed. He was watching Minji discuss the repairs with the station engineers. But someone has to help them. Let someone with a fully operational ship do it. There is no one else. Every other ship capable of towing is already on assignments. We're the only option. Ilmeth was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Then we're coming with you. Do-yoon looked at her in surprise. What? My crew. All 12 of us. We're coming with you on the rescue mission. Captain Ilmeth. You don't have to. Yes, we do, she interrupted firmly. You saved our lives. You taught us that helping others is not a calculation. It's a duty. We may not be Deathworlders, but we can learn from your example. Do-yoon felt a warmth in his chest. Thank you. We'll be glad to have you. Over the next 3 days, the repair crews worked without stopping. They patched the hull breaches, replaced damaged systems, and reinforced the weakened sections. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. The Seongsan runner would fly again. The Valkyrie crew integrated themselves into the ship's operations. Prena worked with Salmon on communications. 2 other Valkyrie helped Minji in engineering. They were learning, adapting. On the morning of the 4th day, the Seongsan runner undocked from the station. She looked battle-scarred but functional. Patches of new metal stood out against the old hull like bandages on wounded skin. All systems green, Minji reported from engineering. She's not pretty, but she'll hold. That's all I need, Do-yoon said. Taeho. Set course for the colony ship. The journey took 3 days. During that time, the combined human and Velkari crew worked together smoothly. The Velkari learned human efficiency, how to make quick decisions, how to adapt plans on the fly, how to trust their instincts. The humans learned Velkari thoroughness, how to double-check systems, how to plan for multiple contingencies, how to document everything. They found the colony ship drifting exactly where the station master said it would be. It was massive, 10 times the size of the Seongsan runner, shaped like a cylinder with huge engines at one end, and it was heading straight for a dense asteroid field. How long until they reach the field? Do-yoon asked. 18 hours, Salmon calculated. Maybe less if they drift faster. Jun. Can we tow them? Minji ran the numbers. Barely. Their mass is at the extreme edge of what our engines can handle. And with our damaged state, we'll be pushing our limits. What's the probability of success? Ilmeth asked. Everyone turned to look at her. She smiled slightly. I'm learning. Sometimes you need to know the numbers before you decide to ignore them. Minji did the calculation. 53% chance of successfully changing their course enough to avoid the asteroids. And the chance of our ship surviving the attempt? Prena asked. 67%. The Velkari crew members looked at each other. Not long ago, these numbers would have terrified them. Now they understood 53% was better than 0. We're doing this, Ilmeth said firmly. All in favor? Every Velkari raised their hand. They had learned the Deathworlder way. When lives were at stake, you took the risk. All right then, Do-yoon said. Let's get to work. Taeho, bring us alongside. Kyungho, Jinho, prepare the towing cables. Minji, I need those engines giving us everything they've got. The operation began. Attaching towing cables to a ship that size was delicate work. The Seongsan runner had to match the colony ship's drift perfectly, then extend the cables and lock them to structural points on the hull. Kyungho and Jinho went EVA, guided by 2 Velkari volunteers who wanted to learn the process. They worked carefully, attaching the heavy cables one by one. Each cable was as thick as a human arm and strong enough to pull a small moon. First cable secured, Kyungho reported. Second cable secured, said one of the Velkari, pride evident in his voice. Third cable secured, Jinho confirmed. All cables attached and locked, Kyungho finally announced. We're ready to tow. Back inside, Do-yoon gave the order. Minji, start the engines. Slow and steady. I don't want to snap those cables. The engines roared to life. The Seongsan runner began pulling, and the massive colony ship slowly started to change direction. It was like an ant trying to move a mountain, but bit by bit, the mountain was moving. Stress levels on the hull? Do-yoon asked. Climbing, Minji said, watching her screens carefully. We're at 60% of safe limits. 70%. 80%. The cables are holding, Salmon added. No signs of strain. Course change is 0.3 degrees, Taeho reported. We need at least 2 degrees to clear the asteroid field. How long to achieve 2 degrees? Do-yoon asked. At this rate? 16 hours. They had 18 hours before the colony ship reached the asteroids. It would be close. Very close. The hours crawled by. The engines ran at maximum capacity, straining against the massive weight. The hull groaned and creaked. Several times, minor systems failed from the stress, and the repair crews rushed to fix them. The Velkari crew worked alongside the humans, no longer observers but participants. When a cooling line burst in engineering, it was a Velkari technician who sealed it. When the navigation system glitched, Prena worked with Salmon to reset it. They had become part of the team. After 8 hours, Do-yoon insisted everyone rotate shifts. They needed rest if they were going to maintain focus. He enforced the schedule strictly, making sure people actually slept during their off time. Ilmeth found Do-yoon in the cargo bay during his rest period. He wasn't sleeping, just sitting quietly and thinking. You should rest, she said. So should you. She sat down beside him. I've been thinking about my paper that Prena wrote, about Deathworlders and how you handle danger. And I think she missed something important. It's not just about facing danger. It's about facing it together. Alone, you would be reckless. But together, you're effective. That's the real lesson. Doyun nodded. Humans learned early that cooperation was survival. A single human can't bring down a mammoth, but 10 humans working together can. A single human can't survive a winter alone, but a tribe sharing resources can. We learned to depend on each other. And now you're teaching us the same lesson. Ilmeth said softly. Thank you. After 12 hours, they had achieved 1.5 degrees of course change. They needed more. We're not going to make it, one of the younger Velkari said, his voice tight with fear. Yes, we will, Minji said firmly. She was tired, her eyes red from exhaustion, but her voice was steady. We just need to push a little harder. The engines are already at maximum, Prena pointed out. Then we go beyond maximum. Minji pulled up the engine specifications. I can overclock the engines by 15%. It'll void the warranty and probably cause permanent damage, but we'll get more power. Do it, Doyun said without hesitation. Minji's hands flew over the controls, bypassing safety limiters and pushing the engines beyond their designed capacity. The ship shuddered as the engines roared even louder. The course change accelerated. 1.6 degrees, Tejo called out. 1.7. 1.8. Stress on the hull is at 95%, Salmon warned. We're approaching critical levels. The engines are overheating, Minji said. We can't maintain this for long. How long? Doyun asked. Maybe 2 hours. Maybe less before something catastrophic fails. Doyun looked at the countdown timer. They had 4 hours until the colony ship reached the asteroid field. They needed 2 degrees of course change. They were almost there. Keep pushing, he ordered. The ship groaned and shook. Warning alarms blared. Systems failed and were quickly repaired. The crew worked with desperate efficiency, each person knowing their role and executing it perfectly. Humans and Velkari worked side by side, no longer separate species but one crew with one goal. When a Velkari technician needed a tool, a human handed it to them without being asked. When a human engineer was too exhausted to continue, a Velkari took over seamlessly. 1.9 degrees, Tejo said, his voice hoarse. Everyone held their breath. 2.0 degrees, Tejo shouted. We did it. The colony ship will clear the asteroid field. The bridge erupted in cheers. Humans and Velkari hugged each other, crying and laughing with relief. They had done the impossible. Against all odds, working together, they had saved 2,000 lives. Minji, shut down the engines, Doyun ordered. Let them cool before they explode. The engines powered down, and the sudden silence was deafening. The colony ship continued on its new course, slowly drifting away from the deadly asteroid field. They'll need help getting back on course, Salmon said. But they're out of immediate danger. Doyun sent a message to the colony ship, informing them of the situation and providing coordinates for the nearest station. Then he broadcast to the entire ship. This is Captain Doyun. Mission successful. The colony ship is safe. Everyone did excellent work. I'm proud of all of you. More cheers echoed through the corridors. Later, as they began the journey back to the station, Prena approached Doyun with an updated version of her paper. I've added a new section, she said, about cooperation between Deathworld species and non-Deathworld species. About how working together, we can achieve things neither could do alone. What's it called? Doyun asked. The Deathworlder effect. How courage becomes contagious. A.T. Doyun smiled. I like it. The return journey was quiet and peaceful. The crew was exhausted, but satisfied. They had faced impossible odds and won, not through strength or technology, but through determination, cooperation, and the refusal to give up. When they reached the station master was waiting at the dock. His skin was bright gold, extreme satisfaction. "You did it," he said, amazed. "You actually pulled it off. The colony ship made it to safe space. 2,000 lives saved. Just doing our job," Doyun said. "Just doing your—" The station master shook his head. "Captain, your job is salvage. You went so far beyond that? I don't even have words." "Then don't use words," Doyun said with a smile. "Use credits. I believe you owe us for the job and the repairs." The station master laughed. "Fair enough. Your repairs are covered. And I'm adding a bonus. You've earned it." As the crew disembarked, Ilmeth stood with Doyun, watching her people mix with his. Velkari and humans talking, laughing, planning future missions together. "We're not going back to Velkari space," she said suddenly. "Not yet. Anyway, we want to stay with you. Learn more about the Deathworlder way." Doyun raised an eyebrow. "You want to join my crew? If you'll have us. We're not fighters or risk-takers by nature, but you've shown us that we can learn. That courage isn't about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear. We want to learn that." Doyun extended his hand. Ilmeth took it, and they shook a human gesture she had learned. "Welcome to the crew," Doyun said. That evening, Soman picked up another distress call. The crew gathered on the bridge to listen to it. A mining station reporting equipment failures. Not critical, but they needed help. "What's the danger level?" Doyun asked. Teho checked. "Low to moderate. Nothing we can't handle." "What's the distance?" Ilmeth asked. She was learning to ask the right questions. 4 days at standard speed," Soman answered. "And our ship's condition?" Prenna added. "Fully repaired and operational," Minji said with satisfaction. "We're ready for anything." Doyun looked at his crew, human and Velkari, together. "Well then, let's go help them." As the Seongsan runner undocked from the station and headed toward the stars, Prenna made one final note in her paper. "Deathworlders do not seek danger. They seek those in danger. They do not glory in risk. They glory in overcoming it. And most importantly, they do not face challenges alone. They bring others with them, teaching by example that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to help despite it. In this way, every species can become a little bit Deathworlder. We need only choose to try." The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of possibilities. Somewhere out there, someone needed help, and the crew of the Seongsan runner would find them, because that's what Deathworlders did. And now, it's what they all did together.